Thank you, Governor. My name is Howard McPherson. I'm from North Bergen, New Jersey. Don't hold that against me. Governor, I thank you for the salary caps that you put on public employees and the tax cap for the property. We have an issue in North Bergen where our mayor is also the state senator. He's also the director of primary and secondary education, where you implemented a salary cap of $150,000. He resigned from superintendent of schools and had the Board of Education make a job title for him to be director of primary and secondary education. The salary cap was $150,000 that you implemented. Well, now he makes $250,000 as the primary and secondary director of education. He has 3 jobs currently, and he makes about $339,000. I think he makes a whole lot more than what you make.
Yeah, double.
Also, his chief of staff is Anthony Veneri, who's the Hudson County freeholder. He's the Hudson County freeholder. He's on the board at the Hudson County School of Technology, and he's the chief of staff. He has 3 jobs. Then we got the speaker, Vincent Prieto. He's the assemblyman. He's the construction code official in Secaucus, and he's the construction code official in Guttenberg. Not just that, he also is a consultant, where he does not report his consulting firm to the ELAC Commission. How do we stop this, where they're holding multiple jobs and just raping the industry, and then it all falls back on your lap?
Well, I proposed back in 2010 some fairly sweeping employment and ethics reforms that would include, everyone just having one public job. It seems to me that like one public job should be enough for anybody. In New Jersey, we seem to think that one is just called a good start. And you point out a number of examples, and there are many more than the ones that you just pointed out. That bill that we proposed to the legislature never even got a hearing anywhere, in the Assembly or in the Senate. And there's nothing that I could do from an executive action perspective by signing an executive order to change that. So, these are the things that frustrate people when I talk about these big problems, these big number problems. Then you raise issues like the one you raised, which, are fundamental issues of fairness that people feel and say, well, why is this right? Why should any one person in a number of public jobs make double what the governor makes? And my answer to you is we could change it if we wanted to. I mean, you could pass a law that says that there's, no more than one public paycheck. But we haven't done that. Thank you. We haven't done that. And the fact is that you continue to frustrate, you continue to feel frustrated, and I do, by the lack of common sense at times that people have. In terms of just saying like this stuff is just stuff we shouldn't have. Now, the big problem that leads to is less in the context of everything we're talking about here, the dollars that we save today, although those would be significant. It's that pensions aren't all calculated off of those numbers too. And those start to become big numbers for the rest of the time. So the 2 problems, the one you pointed out and the one I talked about at the beginning, intersect with each other in a way that's really toxic. And if we restricted people to one public job, that would help. And I will tell you that one of the things that really has bothered me about the superintendent salary cap, as you mentioned, that we put into place, is that school boards have gone about finding a way to get around it. They do it one of 2 ways, like you talked about the creation of new titles, or they take a retired superintendent and put them on a temporary contract as a consultant and an acting superintendent that pays them a lot more to get around it. It's like we're the enemy. We're trying to save taxpayers money, and they're looking for ways to get around it. And so that frustration in terms of public salaries and all the rest of it is something that I've felt before I became governor as a taxpayer, and certainly feel it now. When you try to do things and the people who are working against you are people who you're trying to help. And it gets a little bit frustrating. You've raised good issues. I told you the way we could fix it, but is this legislature going to pass a bill to restrict people to one public job? I have my doubts.
I have one last question.
Sure.
I contacted the State Attorney General's office with regards to North Bergen elections. I sent them about 35 photographs of 3 and 4 sets of legs inside the polling booths. State Attorney General gets back to me.
Well, let me say 2 things about that. First, I don't get involved in what the State Attorney General does or doesn't do in an area, as you're suggesting, it could be a criminal violation. When I was U.S. Attorney, I was U.S. Attorney for 7 years before I became governor. I hated when politicians got involved in critiquing the criminal conduct and how investigations were conducted. So as governor, I made it a hard and fast rule. I don't critique it, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to get involved as governor in whatever actions or refusals to act that the Attorney General gets involved in on the criminal side of things, because I think there's got to be separation there. Secondly, I'll just give you some bit of advice. There would be oftentimes that people would send me things as U.S. Attorney, and they wouldn't see something happen in the next 6 months or a year, or even 18 months, and they'd say, he's not doing anything. And some of these things take a long time to do. And sometimes a lot of things are going on that you don't know about. I don't know if that's the case with this, but what I would tell you is that it is the rare instance when something gets sent to a prosecutor's office where they completely ignore it. They'd have to think it's completely loony to not look at it at all. And so I ask everybody all the time, and that's dealing with any prosecutorial office, not just the AG's office. Take a deep breath, let them do their work. You never know exactly what they're doing until they actually do it. And that's the way they operate best. They operate compliant best. And that's what I always tried to operate in the U.S. Attorney's office when I was running that place. And we were pretty effective doing what we did during that time. So be patient. We'll see.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank you, sir.